Let's knit a stretchy bind off for 2x2 ribbing. So I've got a sample here and I've done a couple rows of 2x2 rib, and this bind off is similar to the 1x1 stretchy bind off. I can link that video below, and this one's going to be for 2x2 rib. So let's go ahead and start. We're going to, the first stitch I started here with a purl, 2 purls followed by 2 knit stitches. So since this is a purl, the very first stitch we're going to do is purl like we would normally. Since the next stitch is also a purl, we're just going to purl that also as we would normally and bind off. Okay, and since the next stitch is a knit, if you remember we just got done with a purl, the next stitch is a knit. That means we have to get the yarn, the working yarn, behind the right hand needle ready to purl. But I'm not going to bring my working yarn behind like I would normally. I'm going to twist my needle. And the way we do that is simply by twisting the needle to the front. And if you'll see now, the working yarn is behind, ready to knit a stitch. We're going to knit as we would normally and bind off. The next stitch is also a knit stitch. We just did a knit stitch, and the next stitch is a knit stitch, and the working yarn is already in the back, ready to knit. We're going to knit like we would normally and bind off. Now, we just completed a knit stitch. The next stitch is a purl stitch. We need the working yarn to be in the front so that we can purl. I'm going to twist my needle to the back. This brings the working yarn to the front so that it's ready to be purled. And we're going to bind off. And the next stitch is another purl stitch. The working yarn's already in front. I don't need to move it. We're going to purl as we would normally and bind off. Next stitch is a knit stitch. We need to move the working yarn to the back, so we're going to twist the needle towards us. That puts the working yarn in the back, ready to be knit. And we'll bind off. Next stitch is also a knit stitch. No need to twist the needles. Knit as we would normally and bind off. Next stitch is a purl stitch. We just did a knit stitch, now it's a purl stitch, so I need to twist my needle. I'm going to twist it away from me. That puts the working yarn in the front, ready to be purled. Bind off. Next one's also a purl. Just gonna go ahead and do that normally and bind off. Next stitch is a knit stitch. So we need to twist the needle towards us. That puts the working yarn in the back, ready to knit and bind off. Last one's a knit stitch. We'll knit and bind off. So there we have a bind off that's kind of stretchy for a knit 2 purl 2 rib.